Bring out the talent.
Bring out the talent.
Bring out the talent.
Welcome to Bring Out the Talent, a podcast featuring learning and development experts discussing innovative approaches and industry insights. Tune in to hear our talent help develop yours. Now here are your hosts, TTA's CEO and President, Maria Melfa, and Talent Manager, Jocelyn Allen.
Is that my name? It's been a long weekend.
I know, right?
Yes.
You knew we were feeling the vibes when we were bouncing over here, snapping our fingers.
Exactly.
Like some old school beboppers. I loved it.
Absolutely. Such a good theme song David picked for us. But
It is a good one. I
very
know.
nice.
Right?
And how excited are we today about talking about AI?
Very excited. We had a little moment beforehand. We're very excited about talking about this futuristic type of topic, right?
Yes.
Because I feel like even though it's apparent, people still feel like it's a little bit Jetson.
I know.
Right?
Well, it's funny because we've been talking about it for years here. And what should we do? We need to pay attention. And it seemed like nobody was talking about it. I mean, there were certain seminars, webinars, sessions, but all of a sudden it's here. Everything
And
that we
everywhere.
see, even in marketing, it's everywhere. I know yesterday WordPress had a whole big thing about their new release.
Yeah,
And
everybody.
so it's very interesting. So let's begin. So as we just said, AI is changing the world as we know it. So what does this all mean for learning and development? In our episode today, we will dive into the dynamic impact that generative AI can have, both positive and negative, for those of us in L&D, HR roles, and all roles, but we will focus just on L&D and HR today. To better understand the power of generative AI, we are joined today by our special guest, Dr. Gary DePaul. Dr. DePaul is an esteemed speaker, leadership author, podcaster, adjunct professor, and a human resource business partner researcher. He boasts over 2 decades of experience in helping organizations enhance workforce performance. With his extensive expertise, Dr. DePaul will guide us in unraveling the potential and power of generative AI. Welcome, Dr. DePaul. And I know you told us you would prefer us to call you Gary. So welcome, Gary.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here and excited about this and looking forward to one of my favorite new topics, even though it's been around for long enough.
Absolutely, it has. We're really excited to explore the topic with you and the incredible potential of generative AI. For those who aren't really fully aware of what we are talking about, I mean, everybody hears AI where it's very rampant and accessible for people now in certain areas, but again, kind of futuristic to others, and not everybody understands what it may be. So can you dive a little bit deeper or break down what is generative AI and what makes it different?
Yeah. So AI, of course, is artificial intelligence. And by the way, everything I'm going to tell you is going to be in English. I'm not going to get into jargon. I'm going to make it as real as I can. So
Thank God.
Yeah. So here it goes. Generative AI. Let me do it by a metaphor. Okay. Imagine, if you would, it's 2005 and you're getting into e-learning, you're in a corporation, it's your first job, and you wanted to find out the pros and cons about e-learning. And you go to the library. You ask the librarian, hey, I need to figure out this e-learning thing because I'm new in this position. I don't know much about it. And the librarian comes up with maybe 30, 40 books and says, here you go. Some of them are on e-learning, some are on maybe a L&D handbook, and you get the whole stack, and then you start searching through it and finding out what you need to know. That's like a search engine, like you would if you went to Google. Now, generative AI is a little bit different. You go to the library and say, I want to know everything about e-learning and what it's about and the pros and cons, and the librarian hands you a 1-page summary of the pros and another page summary of the cons. and one that talks about who's using AI. And then you say, well, can you give me some examples of you mentioned microlearning, give me examples of microlearning, and then you get a page on microlearning. The librarian keeps giving you stuff. You don't have to look through all those books to come up with this unique answer that you're searching for. The AI librarian does it for you. Now, here's the big difference that people should really get. If you're using generative AI, it's based on a finite set of data. So what does that mean? If I do a search on a search engine, I won't plug anyone, you're going to get the latest information, but it's just all out there. It's current. If you go to a generative AI and you put in a prompt, it's only from a certain amount of data that it's pulled from. It's not the universe. You're not getting the latest. So if you want to know what are the latest surveys that have been put out there about employee engagement, say since the beginning of January of this year, it will say, I can't do that. My data set ends, and I'll give you an example. Chat GPT, it ended September 2021. So I can't tell you anything that happened in 2022. I could speculate, but that's the best I could do. But the responses that you get are going to be so mind-blowing that you won't even know that. It's going to give you stuff that will just trip you out. That's a technical term.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that. So can you explain that again, about Chat GPT? Are you saying that the information only goes up to a certain point? So even though we're typing it in today and getting the answers that we do, like there's a year and a half essentially of knowledge gap there?
Yeah. Well, it's
Crazy.
No, it's before it ended on September 2021 on the data set. But the thing about it is so you can't get anything after that. So but it's still amazing. Maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 20 years. They get a data set and then they train the system, for lack of a better word, on how to use that data set.
Okay. Very interesting.
That's wild.
Yeah, and Chat GPT obviously is very, very popular and well known now. I mean, we've played around with it. I think everybody has played around with it to see what it can do. But can you tell us a little bit more about like how it is used and how people would use it? Why are we seeing such crazy results from this AI feature or engine, if you will?
Yeah, and OpenAI is the company that made Chat GPT. Just to throw that out there. And the free version, small thing, is version 3.5. And that's the version that ended September 2021. Anyone could go in there and use it for, gosh, just about anything. If you want to learn the language, you want to learn French, you can have this chat. Imagine, if you would, you're on your cell phone and you're texting someone. That's what Chat GPT's like. It's just you're doing it with artificial intelligence. And it could respond to a series of inputs that you do. So if I start saying, okay, I want to learn French, but I want to learn the Southern dialect in France, and I wanted to do this, and I want you to coach me, and I want you to use the coaching technique that is used by the International Coaching Federation, and et cetera, et cetera. It could be very specific. And that's another big difference between Chat GPT, generative AI, and search engines. And remember the old days of search engines? You put in a lot of information, you get the world. The more you put in, it gives you a broader response. With this Chat GPT, the more information you put in, the better the response that you get. So if quick example, I want to learn how to write a test question for a course I'm doing. Okay, well, what's the course? It's nuclear engineer, utility inspectors, looking at pipes. Give me a very specific response on what I can ask them about crack fatigue in piping. And it will give you a really cool question to ask as a test question, and it'll be very specific. So you can get as detailed as you want, and the more detail you give, the better the response.
It really is amazing. Our marketing department has started using it for writing some blogs, and they will keep on trying to refine it. I think one of the latest blogs they did, they said, use the tone that Accenture uses. And it kept on just refining it and refining it. And it was absolutely mind-boggling to see what it came out with.
Now make the same blog, but this time make it a comedy.
Yes.
Okay. Ladies and germs, you'll come up with something weird.
Yes. I like that.
That is crazy. I need to play around with it because I also heard that it's our user kind of experience has evolved too, where it started with just like a quick question, and now it's like, no, provide it more information so that it has details to create what it is that you're looking for versus just answering a question that you have. It's interesting because there's AI in instructional design now too, for the same reason, like creating graphics or creating characters. And the more you feed it, the more refined and particular or exact your results are and how you use them. It's I can't believe this is where we were at. I mean, like, really, like we've been talking about flying cars and all this stuff since like we were kids, right? We thought we would be here, but this is even more wild to me.
Our IT department actually wrote a bunch of their help files using ChatGPT within 5 minutes.
Yeah, and what we've talked about is text-based. There are multiple different types of generative AI. You can have some where it's text to speech, and the ones I've seen recently is text to video. So you're making a e-learning course and you have to hire someone to do the talking head. No, you don't. You just go and get a subscription for this generative AI, give it the stuff. It will convert it, and you'll have someone speaking your text. Now, here's a small thing about it is you still have to train it. In other words, if there's some proprietary words in there, it may misspeak. So have you been on one of those map things where they're talking and they say the name of a street and it sounds really weird? It's because the device was not trained on how to say that particular word the way it's normally pronounced. Lucia, no. Lucia, no. Wait, it is like that.
Right.
So, Gary, how can HR departments harness this power of ChatGPT?
Yeah, I love that. Imagine, if you would, you're new at HR and you're handed the policy book. And so here's the policy book. Now we need you to go through it since you're new and you're fresh out of college and you have all this special training. Revise it. Okay. All right. Well, here's one thing you could do. We'll just stick with ChatGPT because there's other ones like Bard for Google and the version for Bing, but just for sake, we'll stick to that. You go to ChatGPT and say, okay, I have a policy on working from home, remote working. What should I do? And it'll give you a whole policy on working from home. But then you could say, here's the outline that we used for our policy. What's missing? What could we emphasize more on? And it'll tell you. And you keep having a dialogue back and forth. But here's another cool way. You're in talent acquisition and someone from a department comes up and says, hey, we need to hire someone. It's a new role. We don't have anything on the position. We need you to make a job description and do the whole thing. Okay. So you're hiring a new person you have a new human resource information system, HRIS, and you need someone to manage it. Okay, ChatGPT, write a job description, but make sure the person has a master's degree and has 4 years experience and has these 3 or 4 different things. Poof, 2, 3, 4 seconds, it'll have one. Then you say, okay, write up a list of behavioral questions I can ask the person for this position. 10 questions appear, behavioral. Okay, what are some model answers? Okay, here's a whole bunch of model answers for what you could be looking for. And I want to invite a few people to apply for this position, write an email inviting people to apply. Okay, bam, there it is. It's done. Okay, what criteria should I be looking at with the job description we created? Okay, here's the criteria. Here's the things that you want to do at the end, and this is how you pull it all together. And you could keep going and going and going. Okay, I'm a candidate. Okay, write me a cover letter for this job, running this HRIS. Here's the emphasize that I have 10 years experience. I have a PhD in HR management. I've implemented an HRIS and 2 companies, put it, bam, job description. Cover letter, bam, just done. 3 seconds. That's the power of it.
Gave us some amazing ideas. I know we just updated our work from home policy. We haven't done that for a long time. We certainly could have used that. And as far as talent acquisition too.
Yeah, job
a
postings,
lot
absolutely.
of good examples.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get to the next question. So, and I have a couple parts on this question. So,
Okay.
How could learning and development professionals leverage ChatGPT?
Oh boy. This is what blew my mind when I first learned about it. I was thinking, my gosh, the possibilities are incredible as far as getting content. I was in a job interview and this guy said, you may be asked to write a sales ethics course and that's all the information you have. What do you mean? There's got to be more than that. No, that's all you give them, right? Create this generic course. Okay, ChatGPT, create an outline for me on what should go into an ethics course for salespeople. Okay, how about some learning objectives around that? Create some of those for me. Okay, I need to come up with a set of assessment questions based on these learning objectives. And that's a whole chat going back and forth with that. I may go in and say, I have this course on sales ethics that I created. Here's the outline. What's missing? What should be in there that's not? Or with that list, the outline, what do you think is the most important items on that list that I should really dive in deep? And I'll make something up, being honest with clients with your initial conversation. Okay, tell me more about that. Bam, you got a whole page on that. It could dig in and develop all this stuff for you, but you have to guide it. You just can't just say it's not going to be. It's not going to create a course for you, but it could help you think of things to consider that are generic and not proprietary.
Very interesting. So what do you think about a learning and development professional that enters this field today or in the next 5 years, say? Will they need a different skill set? Because so we could look at instructional designers. We've had a lot of teachers that switched and went into the learning and development corporate field instructional design. Is that going to be the same type of person? Are they going to have more technical skills?
You know the answer.
Yes.
You do know the answer.
I do.
Okay.
I guess I do know the answer, but so what do they need to know? So if somebody's graduating again in the next few years and they want to be in the learning and development field and be very successful in that, what do they need?
They need to strap in and get ready to go. I'm going to tell you something that may blow you. If you haven't heard this, it could blow your mind. PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, big firm. They have announced over the next 3 years, they're going to invest $1 billion in teaching employees, and I think clients too, on using generative AI.
Wow.
Okay, so you
Yes.
got to know something. You're
Yes.
not going to escape this. And if you're going in, you need to know how to leverage a plugin for your learning management system that is for ChatGPT. So whether you like it or not, learning management systems will have it in there. It'll be built in. and it could function as a coach. You're teaching a leadership development course. You could set it up to where the Chat GPT does some coaching for that individual. I'm going to do a performance review with a difficult client. What do I say? And tell me why I have to say so I don't have to figure it out myself. But seriously, tell me why I want you to be the coach and coach me on that difficult conversation. Well, what are the goals? It helps you think through things. So that's going to be a powerful thing. And you need to know, how do you leverage it for building content? How do you leverage it for making stronger performance measures? How do you leverage it so that your learners can use the Chat GPT?
Are universities and colleges keeping up with educating students with this skill? And the reason why I'm saying that is I have a daughter who will be a senior in high school next year. She's very into IT. She's not sure what she wants to do. We had her do a assessment. It said that she probably would like the UI UX area, but she's also fascinated about this. So what does someone do? And do they even need a college education? I probably shouldn't say that to somebody who's an adjunct professor and has their PhD, but are they keeping up?
Yeah, the answer's maybe. And because I really don't know what a lot of universities are doing, but I'll tell you two things about that. One, in my own department, we're having a meeting in August to talk about generative AI and how we're going to leverage it. In my course I teach on learning development, I'm trying to figure out how to have the students leverage the technology for quizzes I'm going to have them take, for exercises. I'm trying to figure out how to do it. So yeah, some places, yes. Other places, they don't have a clue. And the second part, which is the really emphasize the second, what I just said, when I was at a university taking, I was a computer science major, and I was taking a course on either Cobalt or Fortran. I don't remember which. I walk in, and the two professors at the front of the room, and they said, "Hey, this is a great class. This is the last class that we're going to use those punch cards for learning this language." And I got up and I walked out, and it's like, you know what? You're going to teach me something obsolete, and that's not going to help me when I go into a company that doesn't use punch cards. Come on. So yeah, I don't think people are. It's changing so fast and growing so fast that it's easy to say I'm not going to pay attention to it. But you watch Google, watch them closely, because they made some announcements this month that will blow OpenAI away. Bing is using ChatGPT 4.0. They're doing stuff to improve. There's this massive race to make things more realistic, come up with better answers. That's called prompt. You input something in the prompt, you used to get text. Now you get text and images. You may get videos. You can generate your own images. I mean, it's changing so fast. I saw a blog that I tried 80 plugins for ChatGPT, and here's what I learned. 80 plugins? You got to be kidding. Plugins, it's something that you add to your ChatGPT to make it smarter. So you may add a map plugin so it could pull up maps and it could create maps, whatever. It's just mind-boggling how fast it's changing. And the universities they most likely, a lot of them are being reactive rather than being on top of this. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe bless them if they are. In the South, we say, oh, bless their soul. Bless their souls that they could keep up.
What's Google DeepMind?
Google DeepMind. I know about Google Bard. I know that they came up with 3 or 4 new announcements recently, and I can't remember what they're called, but it's definitely going to be mind-boggling. That's all I could say. I haven't dived into it very deeply.
The reason why I said that, it was actually in a newsletter this morning that I read.
Ah,
So,
okay, I'm
so I'm like,
meeting.
what is this?
I'm meeting with one of the project managers for Google I/O later tonight, and I will ask her,
Okay.
"What the heck are you? What are you guys doing?"
Now, here I come playing devil's advocate again, because
Okay.
this is all very, very interesting, obviously. And like part of me also kind of goes, oh, wow, that's terrifying, because we are just feeding it information to provide assistance or information to us that takes a little bit of time out of it, takes away the time investment for a professional who's using it for something in their professional environment. So where do we draw the line, and what kind of what problems do you foresee that could
Oh.
arise by like relying on this in the way that I believe ultimately we will, because that's what we do as human beings, as we get excited and we destroy a good thing. So like what about that side of things?
There are serious, serious consequences of using this technology, and it could be devastating for an organization in two primary ways. I'm going to give you an example. Recently, the company Slack, you familiar with them? They came up with their Slack GPT. And what I gather from what I read, it pulls from all the Slack chats and all the knowledge in there, unique answers to your prompts. Great, that's good. But there is misinformation in every organization. It's sometimes called tribal knowledge, where someone just, in the call center, it works like this. How do you answer this type of a problem? Customer calls and really needs help with this. You find out from someone. So you write it down and you make a note of it, and it goes into, you put it in Slack or you put it in a SharePoint database. Hey, here's how you answer this. Well, that's how someone answered it, but is it the right answer? Is it the best answer? Does it apply in all situations? Can you misuse it? There is so much outdated, low quality knowledge in databases in organizations that it can be very easy to give bad information. Now, part of Chat GPT is you can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If it gives you a wrong answer, you can explain this is the wrong answer. So you're constantly training and you're getting rid of that stuff. But there's a whole bunch of baggage that organizations have, and with bad information out there that you may be pulling from. The other area is Chat GPT, generative AI, all these different versions, they're made by human beings. So when you have something made by human beings, you have bias. When you're pulling information from a massive data set, is what they call it, you're going to have information made by human beings, which is also biased. So there's a, oh gosh, I wish I wrote it down, but part of the government wrote out some guidelines for using artificial intelligence for talent acquisition, for policies, et cetera, where they warn you against these types of biases that you can encounter. If you make the mistake of making your own policy manual using Chat GPT, great, but it's pulling from human beings. It could be really good information, but there could be some bias against gender, against race, against religion. It's you name it, sexual orientation, whatever. There's stuff that's going to be in there, and that is a problem. One more thing, really important. Say you're using ChatGPT and you're saying, okay, here, I gave an example before. Here's the course I created. Here's the outline. Tell me what's missing. Well, as soon as you input that stuff, it becomes more or less public domain. It's not your intellect. You lose your intellectual property. If you say, here's a communication we're going to send out to all of our employees, could you summarize it or write it better or come up with a better way of doing it? You input it, anyone can access that information. You do not own the intellectual property of what we put in and what is generated from your prompts. So that's something it's something that I know legal and companies are looking at and saying, do not use OpenAI's version. We maybe we'll buy our version and maybe we'll have it behind our firewall that only accesses our information. That will be okay. But as soon as you put something out there, you don't own the intellectual property anymore, or you may think you do, but you would be losing it.
And I'm sure it's going so quick that people aren't even looking into that.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
It is. It's another layer to the conversation and kind of adds, like you said, like some limitations too, as far as like how it can be used. So can we talk a little bit more about those too? Because like while we're on that other side of things, I know that we've talked about kind of the things that still like there's human error, for lack of a better word, within this AI platform. But what about the limitations? Like what can't it do for us, and maybe based on what we actually think, like based on what we think the power it is that it holds?
Yeah, part of it. So again, part of it is it's limited to the data set from whatever that data is. So that's a very important thing. The information you get from the generative AI is only as good as what it could pull from. So that's a really big important thing. There's going to be, this just popped in my head. It may not be quite answering your question. I just saw a thing where companies are going to reject you if you use ChatGPT to create a resume. Just kind of an interesting aside. It just came in my head. But yeah, the limitations really is on the quality of the data, the effectiveness of the training of the artificial intelligence, because you have to train it on how to answer questions and how to leverage data sets. Those really set a lot of the limits. But at the same time, you'll still be blown away by what it can do. Like learn a language. You really can have a dialogue with artificial intelligence to help you if you want to interact with other people with that particular language. There's a lot of things that it can do, but again, the limitations, a lot of it is the biases, the misinformation, wrong information. You can have contradictory information. You guys are L&D folks. You've heard of the problems with learning. Oh gosh, I'm just suddenly blanking on it. Help me out here. Vision, hearing, the
Accessibility.
well, the myth that you have one preferred learning styles.
Okay, learning styles.
I got this concept in my head. I can't get out the word style. Yeah, learning
happens
style
to me every
Yes.
second. Yes.
Yeah. You may input something in there that'll say, yes, learning styles are great. People learn best by hearing or by visual, and then it could contradict itself. And learning styles is a myth. It's proven through research that one person does not have a preferred learning style. So there could be all these myths that end up polluting your data sets and misdirecting or myth directing your, for example, instructional designers.
I didn't realize that. So that is a myth that people
yeah.
don't have preferred learning styles?
They may say I have a preferred learning styles, but in the real research, it shows that there's no difference. There's not a significant difference with one particular style versus another. Yes, I may prefer hearing, I may prefer reading, I may prefer smelling, but or whatever it is, but it's not there is not a such thing as a preferred learning style that makes a difference.
That's interesting because you see that all the time. I mean,
All
there's
the
white
time.
papers on that all the time. And I always wonder, how would a company actually, if you had 7 different learning styles, how do you develop a curriculum based on all of these
Oh, yeah.
different ones? I mean, obviously,
Right.
blended approach is usually the best approach, but you have the very specific styles. Okay, this person only wants this, and this person
Right.
only wants this. And
Yeah.
I
Maybe
think
it's what
companies
you
are actually
said.
doing that. It's
Yeah.
funny. We've actually written blogs on that, so I
Oh,
have to. We
Yeah.
have to change that.
Right.
do a search, do a search, or go to ChatGPT and write in Guy Wallace learning styles, and it's the funnest I've had with LinkedIn is watching someone talk about how learning styles is so important, and then suddenly Guy Wallace appears and says no. And there
Oh,
are
gosh.
several people that are evangelists for trying to defeat these myths, but they keep coming up because the turnover is so high in L&D, and there's probably universities that actually teach that learning styles is a real thing.
Oh,
know?
absolutely. I
Mhm.
just read a white paper on it probably a month ago.
Mhm.
Ah!
Yeah.
So yeah, this is really interesting. So I have to go and after this, definitely tell my team. We'll listen to that
Yeah.
video. So
Yeah,
just one.
Guy Wallace and Clark Quinn,
Okay.
Quinn Quinnovator. I hope I did not spell his name
Sure.
wrong.
Okay. I got it written right down. So one thing that you said before that
Okay.
HR departments are not going to like people that write their resume in ChatGPT. How do you know whether somebody did or not? Is there like I know there's a lot of software where you could put in whether somebody plagiarized something or not. So is that the same case?
I think I heard this yesterday morning on either a podcast or a news story that yes, you can use artificial intelligence to detect artificial intelligence. So I've heard that. How does that work?
Interesting.
I don't know. I think it would be very hard to tell if someone used ChatGPT to write a cover letter when you input when the person says include these 15 things. It's just the style. Write it informal cover letter that emphasize for the instructional designer role at TTA, emphasize that I work with teams very well. I work in high performing teams. I'm the expert in writing learning objectives and evaluations, and it'll write a beautiful cover letter. Now is that cover letter really representative of me? Yes, because I told it to do these things. Did it write a cover letter better than if I wrote it? Yes, of course it did, because it's smarter than me in that sense. But how can you tell if a resume was written? Well, you got to give it some information.
Yes.
So it's the quality of the prompt is what they call it, really determines how obvious it is that it was generated or not.
Yes. So it's definitely based on how good they are at asking questions. If you start seeing the same cover letter coming in from multiple people, you can see
The
that
conversation
they
is
just
here.
said, exactly. Write me a cover letter for this position.
Right.
Yeah,
And then the recruiter gets it and says, "Let me teach you how to use GPT."
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
every cover letter we've had, Maria, it says, I worked in this high performing team, and it's the identical paragraph. I don't
Right,
understand that.
exactly. So we're getting close to the end here. So, and you've given us a lot of obviously information, lots of things to go back to the desk with and look into, because this is a really exciting opportunity for just the kind of the learning world in general. And like you said, and we've been talking about HR professionals. So what advice can you give to the folks in HR and L&D who are tuning in and want to start learning more about how to use generative AI and ChatGPT specifically?
Yeah, you just really hit on one just hit on something really big. And there was a recent artificial intelligence meeting for HR professionals done by a private organization. And I got to see the clip notes or the notes from the meeting. And the most important thing I saw on there, the biggest risk is ignoring generative AI and just pretending it doesn't exist. It's coming, whether you like it or not. It's already here. People are using it. What do you need to do? What should you do if you're an HR L&D professional? Play with it. Play with the free version. I would even encourage you to go to Google Bard, go to Bing's chat version, which is based on ChatGPT 4.0, and the free version, ChatGPT 3.5, and input the same stuff and see what comes out and start experimenting, but really get detailed with your answers or your prompts. And the more you do that, the better off you are. Also, do a search in HR. What are some prompts I could use? And there are websites out there which has a list of the top 100 prompts you could use if you're in HR or in training. Search for those things and read as much as you can about what's coming, because by the time this airs a month later, everything could change. It's growing, it's changing that quickly. Try your best to keep up and learn, and look at the plugins and see what those are about. There's hundreds of them now, or 80. Like I said, I saw 80 plugins. I think that's for the ChatGPT, the paid version. That's $20 a month, I think is what it was, something like that. But then start planning for your learning management system, your HRIS system, to end up having it built in. So you're having an onboarding session. Instead of everyone asking these really obscure questions about the benefits, you ask the ChatGPT, and it pulls from your vendor's database all the information that you need to know about benefits. That's coming. It's not going to go away. And the ones that really embrace it and embrace legal while doing that are the ones that are going to have an advantage with improving the performance of their organization.
Excellent. We've so much good information.
It is.
We'll have to have you back every month to go over all that.
Every time it changes.
Really.
Exactly.
Each time an episode launches, you're back in studio to update it. And we heard about that too, because we've been having these conversations, and it's a good point to make, because somebody, like, while we were on the phone talking about instructional design aspects of this, had shared like 3 hours ago he had seen an update and already got another one, because like in real time they're making changes in these like beta versions of things to keep up. And it's fascinating to see something move so fast when there are still things that have been in place for hundreds of years that move so slow. But
oh my gosh, the cycles get shorter and shorter
Right.
and shorter, and
Right.
and that, sure, that's scary, but have fun with it.
yeah. Speaking of having fun, and no ChatGPT will be allowed in providing your answers, Gary. It's time for the TTA 10.
It's the TTA 10 final questions for our guest.
All right, Gary. So it's time for the fun part of our segment. Not that this conversation hasn't been fun, because it very much has been, but the TTA 10 is where we get a little bit more playful. I've got 10 questions for you that I'm going to ask. You will get the world famous 90-second countdown from producer Dave over there. And the goal is to answer the questions in that time or less, in which case we will celebrate you. And if you do not, we will not celebrate you. But it will still be somewhat of a celebration, because the sound effects are really cool and David's really amazing at it. So the first question, which counts as number 0 so that we still end up with 10, is, are you ready?
Whatever comes out of my mouth, I'm not responsible for, because it'll be the first thing I've thought of.
Okay. That's what we like. It sounds like you are ready then. So David, 90 seconds on the clock, please.
90 seconds on the TTN clock begins now.
All right, Gary, if you could drop everything and go do anything you wanted, what would you do right now?
Take a nap.
What was the last book that you finished?
Lincoln in the Bardo.
How does an elephant hide in a cherry tree?
Oh, I love that question. No clue. It doesn't.
Who is your favorite SNL character?
Oh man, now you stumped me. The 90 seconds is over. David Spade. How about that?
Okay. What is a meal that you that you never get sick of?
Lasagna.
What is your favorite way to take a vacation?
Besides napping, going into the mountains. How about that?
How many pickled peppers did Peter Piper pick?
Too many.
You've landed on an island and you look to the left. What do you see?
Brad Pitt.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Oh, heck no.
What is the sixth letter of the alphabet?
Really? F?
All right, David, there we go. We got through 10. So give us the official verdict, please.
Don't need artificial intelligence to know that Gary finished in 1 minute and 12 seconds, well under the threshold.
All right,
Nice,
Gary.
healthy,
And
round Gary.
Thank
we
you.
have a salute prepared for Gary. No joke. This salute was created by artificial intelligence. Take a listen.
Yes.
There once was a man named Gary DePaul, a genius who knew it all, quite the smarty pants, I must recall. He graced a podcast called Bring Out the Talent to enlighten us all. His brilliance was so apparent. With a voice like honey and a mind so keen, Gary explained AI like no one had seen. Generative AI, librarian for our research. He made it sound like magic, not some techie church. On the podcast, he faced a challenge, oh so grand, the TTA-10, a feat that made us all stand. With wits and charm, he conquered the game, becoming the TTA-10 champion. Oh, what a name. But Gary's talents didn't stop at AI and games. He was a speaker, author, and researcher, earning his fame, a leadership futurist, predicting trends so bright. His insights left us in awe, day and night. And when he wasn't immersed in the world of tech, Gary found solace in laughter. It was his beloved sect. A fan of The Simpsons and The Family Guy, he'd chuckle and chortle. Oh my, oh my. So here's to Gary DePaul, the man with so much wit, whose expertise and humor made us all so smitten. A champion in many realms, a talent so rare. We raise our glasses high to Gary's flair.
Wow.
Oh my.
Very nice.
How
David,
did you do that?
I think your secret's
I-
out, David, that
I
you've been doing
didn't
that
do
the
it.
whole time.
No,
So-
it's the first time. I thought the occasion called for it, but not too bad for a robot.
Not too
That's
bad.
amazing.
So here's something you could do on your own for fun. Say, ChatGPT, write me a poem about myself. Here's the link to my LinkedIn profile and base it on that and tell me how great I am.
There you go. I love it. I love it.
And
That
that's-
was really fun. Great episode. Great TTA 10. And thank you so much for joining us. You gave us a lot of like really great layman information, for lack of a better word, that I think everybody who knows this topic or doesn't know this topic is going to appreciate.
It really was
Made my day.
fantastic. I did learn so much and loved talking to you.
By
Thank
the
you
way,
so much.
elephants wear red sneakers and cherry trees. For more information on Gary DePaul and how generative AI can benefit your organization, visit us at thetrainingassociates.com. We'll see you later.